I guarantee that you all are worried, well, not worried. I mean, why would you worry about some dude on the internet? But I guarantee you all are like questioning where the fuck I've been over the past week. A lot of health shit. I think I have the flu. Well, I've had the flu, so I've taken a couple days off work to recover. Hence me being here at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I had a root canal on what is today? Thursday, Tuesday. So, got that taken care of. It's very important to take care of your teeth. And like all while I was going through this process, I was thinking about the people in Gaza and the West Bank who like cannot access dental care. Like, how many people are going to die because they can't get their fucking teeth taken care of? Like, do you realize how important your fucking teeth are? Like, if you allow your teeth to just like rot out of your head, like you can get sepsis, and a variety of other shit that could literally kill you. Yeah. So take care of your teeth if you can. Maintain a job with good insurance. Because if it wasn't for insurance, I would have had to pay fucking $2,500 for the thing, but instead I only had to pay $500. So this stupid discussion pops up like once in a blue moon, but I see it coming with increasing frequency. So we have this individual: free DRC, DRC flag; free Sudan, Sudan flag; free Palestine, Palestinian flag. Russia and China represented anti-imperialist bloc. I see coming right in with the stupidity today. Lovely. This person says, I'm not reading Marx. He was white. Sue me. And I get it, okay? Like, I get why a black person in the United States, wherever this person lives, would not want to read this old white dude from the 1800s. But look, okay, most black people are working class. Most black people are working class. And if you are working class, it would be to your benefit to read people who dealt with the issues that face the working class, and more importantly, deal with issues of working class liberation. Because yes, we are oppressed because we are black. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not a class reductionist. But we are also mainly oppressed and exploited nowadays because we are working class. You go to fucking McDonald's, White Castle, Amazon, any of these fucked up places that have had upshoots in union activity. Shit, who's leading the union activity at these places? Black people. Black people have always been in the vanguard of class struggle in the West. So why the fuck would we not read Marx? He was white, okay. So would you not want to use an AK to help liberate yourself and defend your family? Because it was invented by Mikhail Kalashnikov, a white dude from Russia. Well, what was the Soviet Union? Of course not. That would be foolish. That would be stupid. So if you don't look, you're grown, okay? You're an adult. I can't force you to do anything. Just like I cannot force you to work out. I cannot force you to exercise. I can't force you. Nobody can force you to do anything. But it would be cutting off a substantial part of your revolutionary efficacy to simply refuse to engage with something or engage with somebody because they're white. But again, you grow. Marx was German and white. Why should I care? Y'all are funny. So, I mean, people have been eating them up in the replies and the quote retweets, as they should. Ironic, considering the people who've taken his works and wielded the most have been non-white people in Africa, Latin America, the Caribbean, East and South Asia, and black people in the United States. Their only response is okay. That's a sign that this isn't a serious thinker. This isn't a serious person. You were just coping with the fact that you don't want to read. Yep, super silly narrow nationalism. Yeah, that's essentially what this is. What are y'all basing this on? Cite your sources. You're not even reading. You just declared openly that you don't want to read somebody simply because they're white. That's dumb. Why? This is funny considering that Marx and Marxism have been racialized as non-white by white supremacists because of his Jewish heritage and the fact that the majority of his followers who acted on his theories were from Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Like, I have a lot of black revolutionary and queer text. Okay, if you're engaging with anything that's black and revolutionary, you're going to have to engage with a variant of Marxism. C.L.R. James, Huey B. Newton, Assata Shakur, W.B. Du Bois. All of these people worked in the Marxist tradition. Of course, they also were within the black radical tradition. Like, we cannot attribute everything revolutionary about black people to a white dude. I think that's part of why this person reacted so strongly. React so strongly to this. I mean, like I said, I get it. Like, I have a lot of black revolutionary and queer texts. This is this person again. Afro-misandry, what a name. And queer text I do want to read and value, but I'm not seeing it for cracker-constructed socio-political lens. What the fuck does that even mean? Mahmoud was pointing out someone who incorporated his analysis into their own, and I do see the value of that. And the way white leftists invoke Marx is frustrating as fuck to me. Okay, this is true. Like, yeah, a lot of white people view this guy as a god. But this is the thing. We should not allow white people to try to maintain a stranglehold on everything that's revolutionary, because in this country, at least, white people are not the genesis. They are not the carriers of the revolutionary legacy. Black people are. What about queer cracker text? But my final take on this is, thinking back to the I'm not reading Marx because he's white thing from yesterday, Malcolm said that there's not 10 minutes of free time that he let pass where he was not reading something that could help black people. The majority of black people are working class. Marx wrote on the working class and how it can liberate itself. Much of our oppression stems from capitalism, so to be pro-black liberation is to be anti-capitalist. Furthermore, it's black people and other colonized people who have pushed forward the class struggle in the West and carried Europeans along with us. So it's in our interest to study, and if we come across something that should be critiqued, to critique. Revolutionaries cannot shut ourselves off from necessary things simply because they originated from Europe. We have to make them our own. That's what the Chinese and Vietnamese did. We should learn from them. So there's this thing about Ian Miles Chong apparently getting ready to get beheaded. Honestly, who gives a fuck? It's good when bad things happen to bad people. Let them stick the bastard's head. It will be no loss to humanity. Who gives a fuck? Let him chop his head off. Like, am I going to cry for a reactionary asshole getting his head cut off? Of course not. Who cares? Execute him. Do it. Do it right now. A thread of testimonies from some IOF soldiers who had to deal with the fierce resistance of Jenin camp.
الذين شاركوا في معركة مخيم جنين عام 2002. وصلنا بداية إلى معسكر إلياكيم للتدريب قبل أيام من مهاجمة جنين، لكننا لم نكن نعلم أن مخيم جنين جاهز بمهنية وكفاءة حتى وصلناه بعد أيام ووجدنا مقاتلين مدربين ومسلحين ومجربين.
So in this part of the West Bank, they've been throwing out the reactionary sellout Palestinian Authority. People have been jumping down Mataz's throat because he met with Mahmoud Abbas, who is the president of Palestinian Authority. But like, I'm not one to criticize people who have gone through fucking hell for months. I don't know why Mataz did it. If I was Mataz, I wouldn't do it, but I'm not Mataz. So.
توقعنا إطلاق نار عشوائي، لكن لم نتوقع مقاومة منسقة وناجعة داخل المخيم، واكتشفنا أن التقديرات الاستخباراتية لم تكتشف ما ينتظرنا. أنا أخدم في الجيش منذ 20 عاماً، وشاركت في اجتياح الضفة وفي حرب لبنان الثانية، وفي الرصاص المصبوب ضد غزة، وخضت جميع المعارك، ولكنها لا تقارب ما واجهنا اليوم في جنين. جررنا المركبات العسكرية ودواليبها معطبة كي لا نضطر للعودة إلى جنين، ومن حسن حظنا أن الزجاج كان مضاداً للرصاص. يقول أحد ضباط جيش الاحتلال: أنا أخدم في الجيش منذ 20 عاماً، وشاركت في اجتياح الضفة وفي حرب لبنان الثانية، وفي الرصاص المصبوب ضد غزة، وخضت جميع داخل إحدى مركبات الجيش التي دخلت جنين الساعة 10 صباحاً، ولم أصدق أن أكثر من 1000 شاب يلقون الحجارة.
I mean, what do you people expect? Like, you all have basically treated these people like animals for decades, and you're surprised that they've coordinated a resistance against you? Of course it's going to happen.
والحارقات ويهتفون ضدنا.
Like, this could be an American soldier talking about the resistance in Iraq or in Vietnam. Like, wherever you oppress people, wherever you fuck people over, there is going to be coordinated and disciplined resistance.
وأن أحد الفتية ضرب باب الجيب العسكري وقال: افتح افتح، وبيده حجر. وأضاف: غريب جدا هذا الجيل، لا يخاف أبدا. رغم إصابة 7 منهم بالرصاص الحي، وكثرة الجنود أكثر من 50 دورية وجرافة. دخلنا ولم نرعب هؤلاء. كنت
بيشت.
احنا صهيوني جينا طالع للتحرير، واحنا بنعشق دقينا المسمار الاخير. احنا صهيوني جينا طالع للتحرير، واحنا بنعشق دقينا المسمار الاخير. جينين الرقم الصعب بوجهك يا محتل، وبقلبك
I really dig this beat.
دبك راح وخليتك تنضل.
جنين بتترجل مع أصوات التكبير والقرآن المنزل مع آيات النفير. يا محلاهم أبطال تكتب بالدم أفعال، في وحدتهم زلزال وخلف البارود بتسير.
يلا حواليهم احشد والبيعة يلا جدد، حتى هالخاين تضرب والطوق الامن يشدد. ايه بالارض بحراسة يلي تعلم عجيشك، تزرع بالراس رصاصة منا والله يا ويلك. فوت 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 راح تطلع بالتابوت، علي الصوت علي الصوت هيو شرد الهالفوت. طاخ طيخ طاخ طيخ سمعنا بالحارة صريخ، راح تتشلخ تشليخ ما عاد عنا سكوت.
لك فوت موت فوت موت راح تطلع بالتابوت، علي الصوت علي الصوت هيو شرد الهالفوت. طاخ طيخ طاخ طيخ سمعنا بالحارة صريخ، راح تتشلخ تشليخ ما عاد عنا سكوت. يابا نسق الاتصالات أمني المعلومات، واخفي التحركات تنجح هالعمليات. ويشوف الموت أشكال من كتايب أبطال، منظومة اتصال بسرية جهزوا غير.
يلا زعرانك لملم واطلع هاجر لجهنم، عجري عسلاحك عالم وانا قدامك ما استسلم. اجاك الرعد بحاله حتى يخرب لك حالك، وابو راعد مع ابطاله بعمود الموت جالك. لك فوت 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 راح تطلع بالتابوت، علي الصوت علي الصوت هيو شرد الهالفوت. طاخ طيخ طاخ طيخ سمعنا بالحارة صريخ، راح تتشلخ تشليخ ما عاد عنا سكوت. فوت موت فوت موت راح تطلع بالتابوت، علي الصوت علي الصوت هيو شرد الهالفوت. طاخ طيخ طاخ طيخ سمعنا بالحارة صريخ، راح تتشلخ تشليخ ما عاد عنا سكوت.
Never piss off Palestinians. They are the kings and queens of diss tracks. This is a stupid thing. Democrats are sticking with Biden no matter what the pundits say. They're going to lose. They're going to lose. They're literally attacking, this was released yesterday, they're literally attacking people who are saying that, hey, maybe we should have this old, demented guy who's basically a shoo-in for our nomination. I mean, sensible, right? You want somebody that doesn't have an approval rating in the high 30s. You want somebody who isn't 81 years old. Like, that's older than fucking Reagan was. And, like, you even have Nate Silver who say that the president's party demonstrates a lack of seriousness, which it does. Like, the guy's 81 years old. People can't stand this dude. Shit lives and brain dead. That is true. The only way to get rid of an incumbent president is via a primary challenge. Based on the early primary results in which Biden won 89% of the vote in Nevada and 96% in South Carolina, because you all have literally fixed it so that nobody else, like, this is not a democratic process. This is not a democratic process. This is basically like, okay, he's our president, so let's just force him through. Let's just force this guy through, and like it or not, you're gonna have to deal with them. Like, people aren't gonna fall for that shit. People don't have to fall for that shit. Calls for an open primary in 2024, ignoring the fact that it's incredibly unlikely that any Democrat other than Harris would be able to take the plunge. And people don't want her either. It will be near impossible to raise the money, staff, etc. So, again, doesn't that raise some very serious questions about the efficacy and worth of the way that we currently do political business in this country? To liberals, no. Because, again, liberals seem to be addicted to losing. Furthermore, if an ambitious Democratic politician like Gavin Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer does launch a presidential bid, victory would mean stepping over the country's first black vice president. Again, who gives a fuck? This is about fucking politics, I thought. This is supposed to be about who's going to be best for the country. Kamala Harris is not going to be the best person for the country. God, my eyes are fucking watering. Don't get sick, y'all. Don't get sick. Wash your hands, wear a mask. Otherwise, you're going to sit here and suffer like me. Not voting for Biden is ageist. And I'm not ageist. But, yeah. Democrats seem to be addicted to L's. FDA warns addictive gas station heroin supplement widely available in the U.S. I wonder if Biden partakes.
And has issued warnings about a potentially addictive dietary supplement that's widely available in the U.S. Ali Rogan has the latest.
The FDA is asking Americans not to purchase or use any products from the supplemental brand Neptune's Fix. It contains a substance called tianeptine. Some countries have approved the drug to treat depression and anxiety. It's unapproved in the U.S., but...
Really? The FDA doesn't have to tell me not to buy some shit that looks like that.
readily available on store shelves and online. It's been nicknamed gas station heroin.
Hey guys, the stuff that's called gas station heroin, it's really bad for you. You might not want to buy it.
And it can be highly addictive. An uptick in use has led the FDA to issue several warnings about tianeptine and its potential side effects, including seizures, loss of consciousness, and death. Dr. Peter Cohen is an associate professor of medicine at Harvard Medical School and joins me now. Thank you so much, Dr. Cohen. Can you explain exactly what tianeptine is?
Sure, Ali. Tianeptine is a pharmaceutical drug originally produced in Europe as an antidepressant. Unfortunately, at higher levels, it can be addictive, and for that reason, has not gotten widespread use. It has never been approved for use for any medical reason in the United States.
If it has not been approved for use, how is it that it can be sold in the United States?
So what we see as a common and sadly tragic pattern is that many companies take foreign drugs and introduce them directly to consumers in the United States.
Look at those fucking pills. That's the most generic of generic shit. Why the fuck would you take that shit?
By selling them as if they are dietary supplements. And they just appear on the market and start selling them to consumers.
We spoke earlier to two health professionals who have seen patients who have...
Thank you for the follower. The new follower. Arabisha Hot Dog.
Have been using tianeptine, and I want to play some of what they told us.
These patients definitely have increased heart rates. They're very agitated, and they...
All right. This is going to be the new fucking bath salts now.
Will admit that they use a lot of the product. So in other words, that they're using it very routinely, that they've built up such a high tolerance to it and a craving for it that that they'll go to great lengths to get it. The presentation of the withdrawal is going to be very similar to somebody who would potentially be going through oxycodone withdrawal, heroin withdrawal.
We were putting a fair number of people actually in our intensive care units. And we had to put them in there just because they were becoming so agitated, so confused, There was concerns for heart problems, concerns for people having seizures. And so as some people, like with many withdrawal patterns, may just feel a little bit uncomfortable, a fair number of people get very, very ill and require very close monitoring with it.
You heard that last doctor say a fair number of people that he's seeing. Do we have a sense of just how big this problem is with this substance?
Yeah, it's really ticked up over the last decade. So back before 2015, we had never heard of tianeptine here. And poison control.
Sounds like y'all need to get good and start doing y'all's fucking job instead of trying to be political. Fucking dummies. Americans not beating the Americans are extremely stupid people allegation. Shocking footage shows unimaginable destruction in Gaza City, including our health center. Yes, they literally bombed the UNRWA's health center. Over 70% of civilian infrastructure, including homes, hospitals, and schools, have been destroyed or severely damaged. 84% of health facilities have been affected by these attacks. Look at this. And this was on purpose. This was 100% on purpose. This was no accident. The thing about societal collapse is that it's not like one big moment where everything stops working. It's just bad news getting closer and closer to you. There's a bombing in the Middle East, and then there's one in Tennessee. There's mass shootings suddenly in the next town over. A series of near misses. Yeah. It's very accurate description, Lee Carter. I think somebody that grew up in Sri Lanka during the Civil War actually said something very similar. This was the guy that's supposed to be the next president of Indonesia, Prabowo Subianto. He was one of Suharto's boys. So he has claimed victory in Indonesia's presidential elections. He's a former military general who helped lead the genocidal invasion of East Timor. He was also the son-in-law of the dictator Suharto, who carried out the anti-communist genocide of 1965. I cannot mention Indonesia without mentioning the struggle of the black people of West Papua, which is occupied by Indonesia and is currently undergoing a genocide of its own, but there is armed resistance there. Just before Subianto entered Suharto's military, the 1965 genocide that aimed to wipe out communism by murdering anyone associated with the party was in full swing. Some estimates put the number of people killed as high as 3 million. Rape and torture were systematically used by Suharto's forces. Countless testimonies like this one relay the horror of those years.
Kulone dituki niku bapakane kula dipetok. Mae kula dibondo dipetaken teng kamar. Kulone dicekel dikangkang digarap tiang gangsa.
Jesus. So the CIA's document is well documented. Less well known is the role of West Germany, which played just as crucial of a role in cooperating with Suharto's genocide. To contain the spread of communism, West Germany sent substantial financial and military aid, providing with all the intelligence support needed. Typical Nazi behavior. Following Suharto's genocide against communists, the regime launched the invasion and occupation of East Timor from 1975 to 1999. Subianto was head of the Special Forces unit running the occupation. Around a quarter of East Timor's population, 200,000 people, were killed by Indonesian forces, nearly a quarter of East Timor's population. He's also married to Suharto's daughter. He married Titik Suharto in 1983. They separated after the collapse of her father's regime, and he escaped to Jordan to avoid being charged with human rights abuses. But his support comes mostly from young people who didn't experience genocide. He's also rebranded himself as a self-declared cuddly grandpa with TikTok dances and election promises to build new homes and hospitals. Huh. Where have we heard that one before? Oh yeah, fuck that guy. Hope he gets murked. Interesting history. Before 1913, blacks owned the majority of land in South Africa. Black farmers were outproducing their white counterparts. Black South Africans were so wealthy that they were even sending economic aid to white workers in England. All of that changed in 1913 when whites purposefully engineered black poverty to turn black people into a cheap labor force, combining companies and to allow white farmers who couldn't compete to take over agriculture in South Africa. Whites could not compete and can't compete on a level playing field. They have to steal land and labor. The narrative that whites discovered an uninhabited land and built it from scratch is revisionist bullshit. All of the land and wealth of South Africa was stolen from the black population. In other words, it is right to kiss the Boer. If your revolution doesn't have childcare, it's not a revolution. If your revolution doesn't feed people, it's not a revolution. If your revolution doesn't have doctors, it's not a revolution. A revolution only succeeds when it demonstrates that it can meet people's basic needs. Very true. Throw the roses in the river, the violets in the sea. Fuck Valentine's Day and set Palestine free.
So last week, Newsweek published this article claiming the EU may sanction Tucker Carlson over his interview with Vladimir Putin. The EU has since denied this, but at the same time, it has quietly pushed for a new law that will let it declare a state of emergency across the bloc and effectively shut down our rights to free speech and information. So on February 17th, TikTok, YouTube, X, and Meta will all be required to be fully compliant with the new Digital Services Act, or DSA, which was developed by the unelected EU Commission as a response to the Ukraine war. And the most scary part of it is called the Crisis Response Mechanism, which lays out how social media companies have to crack down on so-called disinformation when the EU Commission claims there's a crisis. Some of the measures they can be asked to implement involve unilaterally making
DSA mentioned in a bad way.
Changes to content moderation, terms and conditions, algorithms, and more. It's not that hard to imagine what's in store because social media companies have already been doing a lot of these things willingly, following voluntary use strategies against disinformation, which were also developed in the wake of the Ukraine war and intensified since Israel's onslaught on Gaza began. We're one of the many alternative voices that has been affected by this crackdown, which has involved sweeping shadow bans of accounts that criticize Israel's killing spree, endless posts removed for daring to talk about Israel's crimes, and as Human Rights Watch identified, the vast majority of cases have involved peaceful content. Now, as I said, all of this has already happened with voluntary strategies, but both the voluntary and now obligatory measures under the DSA were actually designed in close coordination with NATO and the
European sanctioning Tucker is both ableist, he is quirky white boy, and racist, he is American.
EU's military wing, the External Action Service. Isn't that wild? On its own, the approach of the civilized free Europe to media and free information distribution is handled by military bodies. Anyway, experts also agree that it's almost impossible to define disinformation in law, but that hasn't stopped the EU from building a whole security framework around it. Now this is insane. The DSA allows these repressive measures to be applied preemptively. So
the DSA that I know would never do such a thing.
Social media bots and badly paid, overworked content moderators who have to sift through thousands of posts a day can take a quick look at your profile and judge that you might be contributing to this crisis and shut you down even before you said anything about it. And how does the EU Commission define a crisis? Well, very briefly and very vaguely.
A crisis shall be deemed to have occurred where extraordinary circumstances lead to a serious threat to public security or public health in the Union or in significant parts of it.
Oh, so a crisis is now a threat, i.e. something that might happen, not something that is actually happening. What constitutes a threat? And what are extraordinary circumstances? What makes up significant parts of the European Union? I guess we just have to trust them to decide behind closed doors. We all know how the EU will define a crisis in reality. Anything that is a threat to its politics of neoliberal austerity, protecting its ruling class, and going to war against anyone that threatens those things.
A smooth glide down a powdery slope at
Russians are going to North Korea. They don't get enough of their own dystopian shithole. They have to go to North Korea to get the real experience. No, I don't think that North Korea is a dystopian shithole. I was trying to be funny.
Masingyang Ski Resort.
I still would want to live there, though. See, I'm a Westerner. I'm spoiled. I'm used to having Wi-Fi on demand.
In North Korea. People apparently new to the sport giving alpine skiing a try. Among them are Russian youngsters, making up a part of the first known group of foreign tourists inside the state since it recently reopened its border.
It showed itself worthy.
It's still a beautiful fucking country, though.
We liked it. Great slope.
Granted, it's feudal, monarchical way of succession is kind of fucky, but it's a beautiful fucking country, though. And the only reason that North Korea is so poor, and the only reason it's been going through famines and shit like that, is because America and the rest of the world keep it under sanctions. Like, you can't get shit in.
Each traveler paid $750 for a seat in what the tour company called a test tour delegation. More trips are planned for March.
It's an amazing country. It's closed off, and perhaps that's what attracts everyone.
How's the DPRK dystopian? Ever seen America? Yeah, I live here.
People say they've dreamed of visiting.
Like a place where you have to have pictures of the fucking president in your house and shit like that. That it just comes off as very odd to me. I still love to go to the DPRK, but I cannot fancy myself living there.
North Korea, all that.
Like, it's very restricted, very tightly controlled. I don't like that.
Life. One person says they visited.
Have you ever considered that Cholima on the Wing is a banger song? That's right.
Several dozen countries, but have never been to North Korea.
Since coming to power, the Swiss-educated Kim Jong-un has sought to use tourism to attract much-needed foreign currency. In 2019, he oversaw the construction of a new city, complete with a ski resort, hotels, and cultural and medical facilities at the foothills of Mount Baekdu, North Korea's highest peak. It was a record year.
Yeah, maybe I should do a whole video on North Korea, because it's fucking weird. I've already done something on Juche, but just the whole... It's I think I've seen people call it a what do they call it, the last Stalinist kingdom or something like that. Just the way that they talk in the press and stuff like that. It's something out of the 1950s. It's very bizarre. It's like looking into a time capsule. But again, do I think that the United States should invade and destroy North Korea and try to turn it into little South Korea? Absolutely not.
For overseas visitors, mostly from China. Then COVID-19 hit. His vision...
Also, again, three members of the same fucking family succeeding one another. I don't think that's very communist.
...was put on ice, and the country became more isolated.
So I've been having a few disagreements with an ANCOM. He thinks we should vote against Trump, yet a lot of fellow socialists think that Biden isn't worth the vote. What do you think? Don't vote for Biden. And ANCOM saying that they should vote against Trump. I mean, again, here's the thing. Quit trying to force adults to do certain things. You can engage in political discussion and struggle and argument, but you can't force anybody to do anything. If somebody has convinced themselves that they're going to vote for Biden, 9 times out of 10, that's what they're going to do. And you can bring out all the fucking theoretical arguments. They're still going to do that anyways, because people are emotional creatures. Americans especially so. So, I've just quit fucking... I've made several videos explaining why you should not vote for Biden. Everybody knows my position on not voting for Biden, on voting for Biden is. As a matter of fact, everybody knows my position on voting, period, is. I don't vote for white people. I don't vote for anybody that continues to support the continued existence of this system. And there's nobody running for president whose political line is destroy America. So, yeah, fuck it. I have been a Maoist for almost 10 years now, and throughout that 10 years, I have maintained firmly the time-honored Maoist principle of the election boycott.
Russia, too, has become more isolated globally since invading Ukraine nearly 2 years ago. The war has ostracized Russian tourists from holidaying in many parts of the world, presenting an opportunity for kids.
Imagine your country being such a pariah that the only place you can go on vacation is North Korea.
Last year, he and President Vladimir Putin pledged a new level of strategic partnership.
To South Korea, Pyongyang has slammed the door on future cooperation as it formalized the end to laws governing the Mount Kumgang tours. Once hailed as a symbol of inter-Korean reconciliation, now shut indefinitely. Eunice Kim, Al Jazeera, Seoul.
Like I said, I would still like to go to North Korea, though. Watch this and my thoughts will change. What the fuck? I mean, the guy definitely has big poster energy. I'll give him that. If this guy came to the United States and ran for president some type of way, like, he would definitely beat Biden.
정보가 울렸습니다.
This is part of why I love the DPRK. Like, they're just so fucking hammy with this shit.
Kim Jong-un.
Ew, Kim Jong-un's bulletproof train loaded with weapons and lady conductors
Has a private high-security train nicknamed the Moving Fortress. It reportedly has 21 cars with bulletproof windows and reinforced walls and floors to protect against bombs. It is also equipped with weapons and a helicopter for escape. The family of the dictator is famously paranoid.
In a society where...
I mean, you should mention the fact that this country was literally bombed to the extent that there wasn't one stone left on top of another anywhere in the country.
They're pretty ruthless. They worry that people could be ruthless towards them. It's designed to protect him against his own people.
But does this old-fashioned train really keep Kim secure, or is it a moving target? Few outside Pyongyang's military and elite have been aboard this secret train, which crawls at 37 miles per hour. A US commuter train can easily reach 90 miles per hour, and a Japanese bullet train tops out at 200 miles per hour. Experts say the layers of armored plating make it thousands of pounds heavier and slow it down. Bruce Bennett, an expert on the region, says the train was probably made in Russia but customized in North Korea.
They're going to have personal weapons. Automatic rifles, anti-tank weapons that are handheld, air defense missiles that are handheld, shoulder-fired missiles, those kinds of things one can expect. Probably some of the roofs of the train cars come off to use mounted weapons.
All of this shit is just speculation. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about, so probably, possibly. Pathetic.
The Blackfeet Reservation in northern Montana is beautiful and vast. It is also awash in fentanyl.
It's as if fentanyl is...
Well, just like the rest of the country.
It's raining on our reservation. That I'll do anything to help.
Marvin Weatherwax Jr. is a tribal leader here and says much of the drug activity on his reservation stems from Mexican cartels selling to community members and using their homes, often in remote areas, as distribution hubs.
They've infiltrated our reservation. They've married in. They've basically set up shop. It's just a problem that won't go away.
Tell me what happens at night.
It's like a switch turns off, and there's a whole different population takes over.
Federal law enforcement officials tell NBC News one of the most dangerous Mexican drug cartels, Sinaloa, once run by the notorious El Chapo, now in part by his sons, is targeting Blackfeet and the state's 6 other reservations with a steady flow of drugs, including fentanyl.
What brought you up here?
This is a rare glimpse into that trade. A Sinaloa cartel member pulled over by police on one of the reservations during one of his many trips up from Mexico.
Are you from around here? Or you got a passport?
Mexico.
Mexico?
Mexico, yeah.
Okay.
Ultimately, he and 2 other Sinaloa cartel members were convicted of bringing drugs and cash into Montana, resulting in one of the biggest drug busts in the state's history. He was sentenced to
A cop is arresting a CIA asset.
8 years in prison. Over 700,000 fentanyl pills were seized as part of the case, according to Montana's U.S. Attorney Jesse Laskovich, who was in charge of the federal prosecution. Why Montana?
Fundamentally, it's money. It's big business. These are transnational criminal organizations. They're sophisticated people who have a lot of resources and who are as dangerous as they come.
They've taken advantage of the situation.
Until a couple of months ago, Stacy Zinn ran the DEA here in Montana, working with Laskovich's office on federal drug crimes. She tells me on the reservations, the price of fentanyl is high and law enforcement is sparse, fertile ground for the cartel.
Drugs in other cities are saturated. You have multiple cartels. Well, up here in Montana, it's pretty much wide open space and territory for them to be able to grab.
Profit margins soar the further away from the Mexican border you go. A single fentanyl pill that costs between 4 and 25 cents to produce in Mexico can be sold for 50 cents or $1 in San Diego, and over $100 on some
Jesus Christ.
reservations here in Montana. And then there is the lack of law enforcement. According to a former
Yeah, you can't patrol. Look at this. This fucking state is huge. You can't patrol. Like, you can't have a cop behind every fucking pine tree.
federal official, there are less than 20 DEA agents for the
No shit, they make it out like bandits up there.
whole state. As for the reservations,
These reservations don't have enough tribal police to protect them. Very, very few, and there's hundreds and hundreds of acres of land. And nefarious people, the ones that are committing crimes, know this.
on the Northern Cheyenne Reservation, the boarded-up meth houses bear witness to what community leaders say is a staggering drug problem. 2 years ago, there were 19 police officers for the whole reservation. So they sued the Bureau of Indian Affairs asking for help, but no help arrived. They now say they're down to 7 officers. A Bureau of Indian Affairs spokesperson says the agency does not comment on pending cases. Is the federal government doing everything it needs to do?
We always can do more and need to do more, to be candid. We're in the West, and unfortunately, when we don't have the boots on the ground and people aren't being held accountable, it really becomes the wild, wild West. And I think you see that in Indian country here in Montana.
They still call it Indian country? Oh my God. That's fucked up. Stay away from sneaky snow bunnies. Somebody made this little kid's book. 2 boys named Umar and Malcolm go outside for some fun and excitement. Before they leave, they're warned to stay away from the sneaky snow bunnies by their parents. What happened next? You'll have to read to find out. Speaking of reading, I got a new book called The Emptiness in Our Hands 47 Days on the Streets. South to America, a journey below the Mason-Dixon line to understand the soul of a nation. Gateway to Equality, Black Women in the Struggle for Economic Justice in St. Louis. And Devil's Game, How the United States Helped to Unleash Fundamentalist Islam. Plus, I'm also doing a reread of the Song and Ice and Fire series. I do that at least once a year, or I watch the show. Why? Because I'm a nerd like that. But anyways, I'm going to go back to my convalescence. Y'all have fun. And don't get sick. Wash your fucking hands. Cover your fucking nose and mouth with a mask. Don't suffer like I do.